Deshalb, weil ich überzeugt bin, dass man nun, wenn man nicht zu spät kommen will, mit der Rettung einsetzen muss, habe ich mich bereit erklärt, am 30. Januar die unter 6 und 7 Mann zu 12 Millionen vorgewachsene Bewegung einzusetzen zur Rettung des deutschen Volkes.
Ostracized and oppressed, men, women, and children felt the need to leave their homeland in search of asylum. Millions of people faced the desperate need for safety. Who would take the responsibility of helping them in this time of widespread conflict?
Who would provide? A place of peace in a world of war, a haven amidst a world of hatred. Scattergood Refugee Hostel, a safe haven removed from the conflict of World War II. By Katie Jakovich, Delaney Nylene,
and Colin Worsima. The Scattergood Hostel for Refugees in West Branch, Iowa, started as a partnership between the Quakers of the American Friends Service Committee, AFSC, and the Iowa Yearly Meeting of Friends to provide refuge for Europeans suffering Nazi persecution during the conflict of World War II. Refusing to compromise the Quaker doctrine of pacifism, these Iowa Quakers chose to actively assist 185 refugees as they escaped the horrors of Adolf Hitler's Third Reich. The origins of Scattergood were based in Quakerism, a denomination of Christianity and way of life, founded by George Fox in the mid-17th century. Quakers believe everyone can form a relationship with God, meaning no one is above another, supporting equality for all. Another Quaker belief is nonviolence and promotion of world peace.
widespread pacifism.
In 1682, Quakers settled in Pennsylvania, a state founded for and by Quakers. A group desiring to spread Quakerism settled in south-central Iowa in 1850. Staying true to their principles, the Quakers took an active role in sheltering slaves on the Underground Railroad as the conflict over slavery grew. These Quaker pacifists helped those in need without compromising their beliefs. For this reason, almost 80 years later, when World War II arose and the nation was calling for soldiers, the Quakers once again faced conflict. Unable to fight due to their Quaker principle of pacifism, but wanting to assist in the war effort, the Quakers chose to aid refugees.
The Quakers would provide.
In 1938, the Iowa Yearly Meeting of Friends gathered determined to counter recent world events and policies enacted by Adolf Hitler. Iowa Quakers were informed the AFSC was coordinating refugee relief efforts and called for assistance as friends on the East Coast felt overwhelmed by the thousands of refugees streaming in from overseas. The Iowa Yearly Meeting could provide relief. The Quakers' 1890 Scattergood boarding school in West Branch, Iowa, sat empty. The property was capable of housing those displaced by the conflict of Nazism in Europe. With assistance from the AFSC, the newly founded Scattergood Refugee Hostel opened its doors April 15, 1939. The AFSC desired for Scattergood to serve as a model for Quaker-operated hostels. The Quakers selflessly provided a temporary home during European refugees' integration into American society.
If you were a refugee, where would you go? Where would you find help? Who would help you? Well, during the Third Reich, most people ignored these peoples who were trying to scurry out of harm's way. What's amazing is that the Iowa Quakers didn't.
They were able to touch the refugees' lives in ways that social workers at an institution they can't.
The renovated hostel sat on over 100 acres of Iowa farmland, providing ample room for those escaping the horrors in European cities. Staff at the hostel consisted mostly of Quakers, oftentimes males objecting to conscription, looking to contribute to the war effort. All 185 refugees, hostelites, sought reprieve from deadly conflict at the Scattergood Refugee Hostel. They varied in age, profession, nationality, and religion.
Opponents of Hitler, not aligned with Nazi philosophies,
but unified in their need for assistance as they adjusted to American life. Hostelites were upper, middle, and working class Europeans, but were not permitted to bring currency out of the Nazi Empire, leaving them penniless and in need of not only monetary, but physical and emotional support. The vision for daily life at Scattergood consisted of a community in which all worked toward the betterment of the group. All Scattergood refugees learned work skills, including farming, cooking, and cleaning. Of equal importance, however, was the teaching of the American ways of life. Hostelites learned English, U.S. government, telephone etiquette, and public speaking, as well as how to drive. These basic skills were critical, as the Quakers wished to integrate Hostelites into American society within 6 to 18 months. This vision involved compromise from the refugees. They needed to disregard class and gender differences, cooperate with others, and follow a new way of life. While staying at the hostel, the guests periodically went on excursions to contribute to their experience of America. Activities that were offered to the hostel refugees included visiting Iowa City's newspaper companies, radio station, meat markets, and milk processing plants to learn trade skills. On Friday evenings, Hostelites were invited to the State University in Iowa City for candlelight dinners and other cultural events including concerts, plays, and the Von Trapp family singers of Austria. After each refugee's stay at Scattergood, the lessons and relationships fostered at the hostel stayed with them for the rest of their lives. Some refugees enrolled in college courses at the State University in Iowa City, while others moved across the country. A small percentage of Hostelites returned to their homeland. As conflict in Europe continued, the ability to provide European refugee assistance declined, leading to the closure of Scattergood in 1943. The AFSC looked for others in need of aid and came upon the Japanese Americans, who had been interned under the Roosevelt administration's the Commission on Wartime Relocation and Internment of Civilians. The Quakers saw this rising conflict in America and sought to assist in the solution. However, with widespread Japanese hysteria, many on the American home front were not in favor of this project. The idea was met with an intense backlash within the West Branch community, which would have housed a hostel on the Scattergood grounds, and led to the establishment of the Friends Japanese American Hostel in Des Moines. The urbanized area allowed a better fit for the over 750 Japanese Americans who found refuge at the Des Moines Friends Hostel. Maintaining the Quaker principle of humanitarian aid through pacifism, the AFSC continues to help those in need around the globe today, aiming to solve issues affecting the modern world, such as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the defense of immigrants' rights, the creation of economic justice, the abolition of discrimination, and the ending of mass incarceration. The Quaker goals of the 21st century vary little from their founding principles of nonviolence, pacifism, and equality for all. The modern world faces refugee crises greater than even those seen in World War II. The civil wars in countries such as Syria, Sudan, and Yemen have caused the displacement of millions from their places of origin. An estimated 65 million people now live under the title of refugee. The refugee crises of today prove a challenge to every government and humanitarian group around the world, as many try to solve a seemingly endless problem.
The amount of networking you have to do with individuals, organizations, and governments to properly get resources to the people on the ground. And I feel like for me it's kind of an obligation. I have to do it because I have family still in the refugee camp.
The selfless actions of the Quakers are a model for today's society to deliver relief to those in conflict.
Returning to the original intent of the Scattergood grounds, the Scattergood Friends School and Farm reopened to students in 1944. Currently, it is home to 25 students both from the United States and abroad. They live and learn according to the same pacifist philosophies that were implemented into daily life by the Quakers and followed by the World War II Scattergood Hostelites. Unwilling to rest until their goal was fulfilled, the founders of Scattergood Refugee Hostel worked tirelessly to not only assist refugees, but create a lasting impact that would change Hostelites' lives for the better. The selfless actions of the Quakers in the face of incredible conflict serve as precedent for those seeking to create peace in the world today.
We came to Scattergood, nearly broken in health and spirit, after the hardship of the last years in Europe. It was at Scattergood where we had the opportunity to recover from the distress we had to go through. I shall always think in gratitude and deepest appreciation. Scattergood and the Quakers.